I want you to see some of the ancient ruins, rocks like this, that were cast down from the temple in 70 AD, when the Romans just completely plundered Jerusalem and especially destroyed the temple. If you take a look at a huge rock like this, don't you wonder how anybody could quarry this rock, get it out of the quarry, over here in Jerusalem, to the temple, and then mount it upon other rocks this size, but all around here, behind me, and you just pan over my shoulder to the right here, and you'll see that there's ruin, there's rock, and for centuries and centuries, the temple was left in ruin. In fact, as you're looking at the temple wall, imagine this, that the ruin of Jerusalem and the ruins of the temple went 2/3 up that great wall. 2/3 of it was in rubble and dust and ruin and rock and column as this temple was destroyed. But God did something. In 67 and 68, there began a restoration. Throughout the 70s. Israel began to clear the debris away, clear the rock and the rubble. And today, we can take a look at the bottom and the foundation of the temple, and it is the original foundation of Herod's Temple. Now, the rocks that you see up high and above, those were reconstructed, but the rocks you're going to see at the base of the temple have been there for centuries in the days of Jesus. I'm going to take you to the south wall right now. The south wall was the entry wall. Most assuredly, the rocks that we'll be standing on are the rocks that Jesus and his disciples had to walk upon in order to enter the temple. Come on, let's go take a look. Well, before we go to the south gate, where the average person would have entered the temple and left the temple, I want to show you one of the 50 or 60 excavated mikvahs. A mikvah is a bath, and what you're looking at is an excavated mikvah. The mikvah would almost be like a baptismal, a ceremoniously cleaning. If you remember, in the Jordan River, not too far from here, John the Baptist was baptizing for the remission of sin, announcing that one that comes after him is greater than he. He was talking about Jesus. And in that day, before Jesus appeared, all Israel was commanded to be baptized for the remission of sin. That was the ministry of John the Baptist. And it's similar to that here. The mikvah would be a ceremoniously cleansing. People would walk down into the mikvah as though it was a kind of a baptism and walk out cleansed on the other side. Now, the priests didn't have to go through the mikvah ceremony. Inside the temple, in the outer court, there was a bronze laven. That laven had 10,000 gallons of water, and it's there the priests would step into the water, immerse themselves, come out of the water as though baptized, come out of the water ceremoniously clean, and before they could do any duties of a priest, they had to go through that cleansing. So let's take a look at the south wall, where people entered and left the great temple. Come on, follow me. Well, behind me is the south wall of Herod's Temple. Take a look at the skyline. Take a look at how high this wall goes. It fortified the cities like all walls, but this was a real fortified city. Now, I'm here at the south gate, and I'm here at the steps of the south gate. All of this was left in ruins. About 2/3 the way up, there was rubble and ruins for centuries. All that got excavated away. You'll notice that these are the original steps of Herod's Temple. It goes up to the original foundation, but at a certain point on the foundation, they have put in new stones and they have rebuilt the temple. So everything you see at the foundation of the temple would have been here during the time of Jesus. Now, I'm standing on the original steps. Jesus would have come from Bethany out in this direction, And as he and his disciples would walk here to the temple, they would have walked up these steps. The very steps that I'm standing on were the steps that Jesus and his disciples walked up into the temple. But here's a phenomenon. All around this temple were money changers. If you had foreign currency, if you had Roman currency, if you had any kind of foreign currency that wasn't Jewish shekels, you'd have to exchange that currency for shekels of the day. And these are Jewish shekels, and if you and I were to enter the temple back then, we would have had to surrender our foreign currency, and we could only enter the temple with clean shekels. Now, if you look to my left, you're going to find 3 arches. Those 3 arches were 3 gateways into the city. Once you were ceremoniously clean, once you had the proper coins, you could enter and pay your temple tax. That would be 1/4 of a silver shekel. You'd pay the temple tax. That would allow you and the sacrifices that you brought to enter into the temple. Once you were in the temple and the ceremony was over, you would then exit the temple, but you wouldn't exit the temple by those 3 gates. Those 3 gates are bricked over now, but they weren't in the days of Jesus. Now, over my right shoulder, there is one single archway. Actually, it's a double archway, but you can only see one part of the archway. And if you take a look up there, you'll find that there's a wall that has been built to divide the archway, but that's the archway that the common man would have exited the temple, left the temple, walked back down these steps, and entered once again into the city of Jerusalem. So once again, we're standing on the very place where Jesus walked, where he and his disciples entered the temple. Amen. But what you're looking at now is the eastern gate of the eastern wall of Jerusalem. However, that's really not the eastern gate. The real eastern gate is about 25 to 30 feet below the rubble that was now a cemetery. Now, the prophecy is that when Messiah comes, that he'll re-enter the eastern gate. So that particular eastern gate was bricked up so the Messiah could not come through that gate. Now, the gate actually is below the ground level. However, it doesn't say that Messiah will walk through the gate. He'll just come through the eastern gate. How he does it will be up to him. Now, just to be sure that the prophecy would be destroyed, they knew that the Messiah was a rabbi, and no self-respecting rabbi would walk through a graveyard. So the Arabs in those days, centuries ago, they built a cemetery all along that eastern gate. Take a look, and you'll find the eastern gate and the eastern wall is just full of one cemetery after the other. No self-respecting rabbi would ever walk through a cemetery of dead men's bones. However, Jesus will find a way to get into the holy city his way, and the prophecies for sure will be fulfilled. But enjoy this scene right now.